Hello guys and welcome back. So in today's section we are going to see the text styling using CSS. In the last section we have seen the colors in CSS. So the topic of today is the text styling. So a text can be either affected directly by changing its font color, font size, font style, or by you can say it affects indirectly by changing the spacing between the letters and the words. So we are going to cover each of them. So let us just start. So I have a basic HTML file, you can see that, and I have written something inside of this paragraph tag, random text. This is a heading, this is a UL, and this is an ordered list. So let us see. So here it goes. So you can see that by default the h1 tag always appears to be of a certain size and of a certain style, which is say bold. So you can say that it is a font weight. So we are basically going to cover the properties related to text, with the help of which we can design, or you can say customize our text. So the very first thing which we are going to see here is the font weight. So whenever you just write in the style tag, and I have selected a type selector which is h1, and whenever you are going to write font, so you are going to see every property which is related to the font. We are not going to cover each one, but the important ones also you can try everyone, means each property on your own. So the first property which we are going to see here is the font weight. So what it does, it actually changes the appearance of the font based on its weight. So it can take four values. Either you can say light, or we can have let me just copy paste this so we can see each one. So okay, so first of all let me just comment this, save this, and let us see. So you can see that it changes its weight from bold to say normal. The next types are the medium types. So let me just change this to say medium, and let us just reload the page. So you can see that it changes to medium. The next value which we can assign to this font weight property is the bold. Okay, so it was the you can say by default style of heading, and also there is a bolder version. So you can, okay, so it doesn't show any considerable change here. So this was all for the font weight. The next property which we can use is the font size. So let us select the paragraph here, and let us say we want a font size property. So by default the size in HTML5 is set to 16 pixels, normal font size. In the earlier versions it was 14 pixels. So let us say that let us say the default size. So this is the default size. Let us change it to say 25 pixels, and you can see that the size changes considerably. So you can just try okay, so you can also give the values in say percentage. Let us use say 25%. So it is too much, but okay. So what it does is, let me just zoom in. So what it does is, it actually takes the size of its parent element, the default size which is a 16 pixels, and not of its parent element but its default size, and changes to its 25%. So if the same thing which we want to show with em, then we can do is 0.25 em. Let me just reload the page, and you can see it doesn't changes. So this em is a relative measure. So the default size which is the 16 pixel, this font size is going to be the 1/4 of its initial size. So let us say we want 1 em. and let me just refresh it. So it was the original size which we have uh, used. Okay, so we have zoomed too much, so let me just, okay, so this was the basic font size which we have earlier used. So there is also a third type which in which this font size which you can define the size, which is percentage. So we have seen that we can just say I want the 50% of the original sizing or the default sizing. So you can see that it changes its size, so you can just play around with it. So for now let us just set it to 20 pixels. Okay, so the next thing which we are going to see and the important property is the font stretch. So where it went, okay, so you can see here this is the font stretch. So it can take three values, either condensed, regular, or extended. So we are going to see each one of them. So you can see condensed. Let me just save and refresh. So you can see that the fonts are a bit of condensed as compared to the earlier one. Let me just comment this. Okay, so you can see this as the basic styling, and when we use this font stretch property with the condensed value, then you can see a considerable change. We can also use a regular, which is by default we have used. uh, Also there is another value which is the extended, or you can say extra expanded. So you can see the changes here. So there are the three values which we can use. The next important property under text sorry is the text type is the text decoration. So let us for now take the ul. So we have used a ul type selector, and let's say inside of ul we want the particular allies to have a particular design. Say text, you can say text decoration. So text decoration can basically take five values. So the first is none, so which is the default uh, value, so you can not see any change here. The next value which it can take is the underline. Let me just refresh. So you can see that the text here inside of this ul is being underlined. The next value which it can take is overline, which is very similar to the underline except for the position of the lining. The next value is the line through. So let us see. Okay, you can see that the text seems to be cancelled out. So as we have seen in the strike through in the text elements in HTML, we can use the same thing here in CSS with this property. And the next type which is not used often but you can use is the blink. So what it actually does is it blinks the text, but you cannot see any considerable change here. So you can just try it on your own by either changing the font color or the background color. So the next type which we are going to see here, next property is the, okay, let us apply it to ordered list. It is the line height. So you can see here this line height, and let us say we have to set it to 10 pixels, and let us see what changes. So let us zoom in. Okay, so this is the default sizing, and when I refresh you can see that it doesn't changes much. So let us see which value it takes. So you just have to come to this mdn, or you can either search in here. Let us say we want to search for this line height. Okay, so here comes the result. Okay, so it can take this values. So let me just copy paste any of the value. Okay, let us just remove the pixels from here and refresh. Okay, so you can see the considerable increase in the amount of spacing between the lines, or you can say between the heights. So let me just inspect it. So you can always just right click and go to inspect, and let us select this particular OL. So you can see that this is the actual line height which we have set here. You can see this 1298 cross 160. So the default size of the text is 16 pixel, and we have multiplied it 10 times. So this 1298 is the width and 160 is the height. So that was for the line height. The next is the spacing. So let us just apply it to the paragraph. Let me just remove this properties, and we can use here spacing. Okay, but spacing is basically of two types. Either you can use the space between the letters or space between the words. So let us just try both. So you can say letter spacing, and again let us check the syntax for the letter spacing. So you can just simply write here letter uh, spacing, and here comes the result. So you just have to okay, you have to give a exact value. So let us say 2 in the paragraph. So this is the default text. Let me just close this. So this is the default text inside of the paragraph without any letter spacing being designed or applied. Let me just reload, and you can see that the text spacing or the letter spacing has changed. So let us increase the spacing to say 5. Okay, so it doesn't changes much. uh, let us see what we can have here. So either we can use normal or we can use the length. So let me just copy paste from here. So here it is saying 2, and okay, let us use the em. So either we can say 0.25 em and reload the page. Okay, so you can see the spaces in between the letters, because it is letter spacing. So you can see between this E and M there is a change in the spacing. So let us just set it to say 1 em. Let me just reload the page. Okay, so you can see this change. So the next type is the say word spacing. So we can apply the same okay, word wrap. Now we want word spacing. Okay, so let us say 0.25 em, and let me just comment this. Now let me reload it. Okay, so you can, let me just zoom in. Okay, so this is the spacing which we come across when we use 25 em. Let us use say 1 em. Okay, so you can see the spacing between the two words. So it is used for giving our text a better look so we can read it easily. So the next property which is important is the alignment. So let me just remove this, and let us remove all this. Okay, the next thing is the alignment. So we can simply say text align, and you all know that it takes 4 values. Either we can say it is left aligned, right aligned, center aligned, or it is justified. So let us use all the 4. So this is left, and let us just okay, so let us use one by one, and let me just refresh. So you can see all the text is being aligned to left side. You can see a clear cut starting here, and you can also see that there is some space left. So okay, it was a normal size, and you can see the some spaces being left behind. So also we can set it to right. So you can see that this on this side we can see a a definite border, and in this side there is not a fixed sizing as to where from the text start. It only takes into consideration that the entire line should be right aligned. The next value which it can take is the center. So you can see the entire paragraph is center aligned, and the last one, and which is most often used, is the justify. So what it does is it takes the entire space available and it sets the wordings and spacing in such a way that it uses 100% of the space which is being you can say designated for it. So the next property of our consideration is the text shadow. So let us just use it in the h1. So let me just remove this and let us have a background color for this h1 so that you can see it clearly. And say let us have a lighter color, say yellow. Okay, so you can see here the background color changes to yellow, and the property which we are going to say is the font shadow, or sorry, it is text shadow. Text shadow. Okay, so it is a bit of complicated one because it takes in four values. Okay, you can do it with the three values also, because the third value inside is an optional one which sets the blur. So the first value is for the uh, text shadow in either left or right direction, I mean both the directions. The second one is for the setting shadows in the y-axis, or you can say top and bottom. The third property, which is the optional one, which is to set the blur, but we are not using it right now. And the last property is the color, which uh, you can say the shadow of the color, sorry, means the color of the shadow which we want in our text. So let us just give it any random number, FAD435. Yep, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and let me just reload. So you can see that it doesn't changes much here. So I think let us use some genuine colors, say orange. Okay, let us see here how we can use this text shadow property. So you just don't have to memorize all these properties. You can just come anytime to this MDN page and you can search for it. So okay, so here comes, okay, okay, let us just copy paste this, and here we go. Okay, we have to use the px, we haven't used the px at that last time. So let me just reload and you can see this shadow. Let me just change some values. So let us say 2px on the x, 2px on the y, and the color which is a shade of blue, and we have just refreshed it. So you can see a considerable amount of shadow behind this text. So what we can do here is we can have more than one shadow. We can just separate it using a comma, and we can say we want 2 pixels in x, 2 pixels in y, and we want, say, a color which is, say, orange. Let me spell it correctly and let me reload. So I don't know why it isn't working, but let us say that we want uh, more than two colors. So let me just check here that we can use two colors or not. X offset, Y offset. Okay, so we'll come back to it later. Okay, so here we go. So we can use more than one shadows. So you can see, let us just copy paste this and see what changes occur. So let me just copy paste it and let us see what they have done. Okay, they have set it 001 em in blue. So let us just reload. Okay, so you can clearly see that first we have used this black, then blue, and then again blue with the change in the value of this blur. So let us see. So first you can see this somewhat black, then the two different shades of blue which are being used for the blur property. Okay, also we have some pseudo classes. So pseudo classes are not the actual classes, but we can use to enhance our styling. So let me add some. Okay, let me cover all this inside of a anchor tag, and let us set to dead link. Okay, so let me just delete it and copy paste this two more time. Okay, what the pseudo classes does, it uh, helps us to design our text as if they are real classes. So what we can do here is, let us see the links here. Let me just zoom in and let us just change this line height, or let us remove this. Okay, so you can see these three different links here. So sometimes you may come across a situation or in a day-to-day life when we click on a particular link, it changes its color, and which helps us to know that we have been to that site already. So this pseudo classes takes in 5 different values. So let us just use it for anchor tag, and we can use the pseudo classes right after the type selector. You can just give a colon, and the value which it takes is link the link which is being used inside of the anchor tag, or we can say use the visited. Okay, so let us just use all of that. So let us first start with the hover. So the very first thing is hover. So whenever a user hovers over it, let me just change the color. Let me just change the color to orange, and let me just refresh. Okay, so you can see whenever I'm going to hover over the links, it changes the color. I know it's a weird combination, but it was for your understanding. So the next pseudo class value is the focus. So focus basically works when we have a text input or any input type. So let me have any random input here, say input type equals to text, and we can give it any name, say as of now name. And let me now use this property for this input element, and we want this focus pseudo class. So what we can do here is, we can change the border. Okay, not border bottom, but only border to say 3px solid blue. So what actually focus is that when we are you can say in, let us see by an example. So let me just refresh and zoom in. So you can say whenever we are going to click on it, we are actually focusing on that particular element. So you can see that by default it is appears something like this. And then when I'm going to select it, so I can say that I have focused on it, so it changes its appearance. The next pseudo class is visited. So let us use in this anchor tag. So we can say visited. So what we can do here is, let me change any of the link values. So what we can do here is, let's say https and say Google. So what basically it's going to do whenever I click on it, okay, so it is we haven't used this OL, and we can say, let me change this. So what should occur is, let us change the color to say violet, and let us use a specific type selector, so you can say the anchor tags which are inside of the OL element. Okay, so you can see that all those are visitors. Whenever I'm going to click on this, it takes us to Google, and when we are coming back to our say page, okay, so I think we have a problem with this visited tag, so we will see it in the upcoming videos when we come across such a situation. The next two are the, okay, so we have covered the link, we have covered the visited. The next is also we have covered the hover, active, and the last is the focus. So you can just come here and you can search for the pseudo classes. Okay, so let me just spell it correctly. Okay, so here are the pseudo classes. Okay, so I have spelled it correctly only. So pseudo classes, okay, these are the pseudo classes. Let us have, okay, so you can come on this MDN page and you can just search for pseudo classes for your better understanding. So you can see that we have so many pseudo classes, and you can see this icon appears here. So whenever you just hover over it, it is going to show you a tooltip which says that this is an experimental API and we should not use in the production code. So you can just try it for your practice. And that was all for today's video. In the next lecture we are going to cover the styling related to layouts. So that's all. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you.